Hi folks, Puffin here. Thanks for watching. Happy 420. Happy Day of Accountability for police officers who are abusing their power. End of police brutality beginning today. I wanted to say thank you to all the people involved in getting the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin, and thank you to George Floyd's family and all the witnesses and everybody who's participating. Um, Thank you to George Floyd. Rest in peace and rise in power. Your life that you lost is going to save other lives in the future, for the symbolism and the work that's going to take place that you started and inspired other people to do. I wanted to give credit to everyone involved in this, including the protesters and Antifa. I'm wearing my Antifa party hat, you can see, because they're the people, the protesters and the people supporting the protesters. We're the people who are pushing this forward and making sure that the awareness keeps growing, because that's all we really need is a growing awareness and more of these decisions to take place to change this whole thing around. Um, for me personally, uh, I got extra involved. I've always been concerned about justice issues, but I got extra involved in 1994 when the police killed a classmate of mine, Edward Wright. And I just went to summer school with him for a few months, but I mean, we were in these long 6-hour classes and he was really funny. He made the class better for everybody. And then a few months later, the cops had killed him for being black and nothing happened to him. Jesse Jackson spoke there. I saw Jesse Jackson standing behind Al Sharpton today. So it's been 20 years since then almost. And not nearly enough has been done. But I wanted to acknowledge that George Floyd is a symbol, and George Floyd is important, and George Floyd is a symbol of many other people who have been killed since then. Maybe 1,000 people have been killed by police since George Floyd was killed, including people at protests, and then thousands more. Who knows how many hundreds and thousands more have been injured by police at these protests, just trying to get justice, just trying to stop these police from being terrorists, and they continue to be terrorists. So we need even more measures to step in to stop these terrorists. We have a military authorization in the war on terror, so we could use military against police officers that are just continuing to engage in terror. But they need to know that that's the next step that's coming if they can't root it out and stop it now, including a different approach to the way the protesters are being treated. Because every time I see protesters, by the end of the night, the police are beating and gassing them. And it's just not right. And it's still not right, and it's resulting in more deaths and more injuries. So I want to acknowledge all the people from the past who have brought us to this moment too, because it's not just George Floyd and the people who've been killed since George Floyd, it's all the people who've been killed prior to George Floyd and abused prior to George Floyd that have gotten so many people involved and wanting to be involved and feeling the need to be involved, even if they haven't gotten involved yet, in this movement. And that's why the movement will continue to grow, because it's affected so many people through the past. So for me, it's been 20 years that I've wanted some justice, and I do feel a sense of justice through this verdict, and some justice for George Floyd. But it is the beginning. And so I'm wearing my Georgia shirt because even though Georgia's done some terrible things lately that deserve the boycott and everything, for trying to prevent people from being able to vote, it's still the good things about Georgia, the land of Georgia, the good people of Georgia, and there's a lot of good people in Georgia that I do want to represent. But at the same time, that's all from the past. It's Antifa. Supporting Antifa will continue until all fascism is gone. But that's one aspect of it, and there's the future to be dealt with. So here's the PuffinOn version of just letting you know that in the future, we continue to get rid of all of these oppressors, not just the police, the military, the oppressive banking system, the oppressive political system. We get rid of also the oppressive media system that only presents a certain view and is only going to talk about how shocked they are that we can finally get justice in this case. Not talking about how we need to get more justice. Now, enough people are starting to talk about that. So looking to the future, thanks to President Joe, thanks to other people, experts that have been able to get some airtime for this the coverage today, of the post coverage of the trial. People projecting what we're going to do in the future, and some good speeches from Ellison, the district attorney, I believe, there in Minnesota. Good speeches from experts and people involved, protesters, good speeches, good awareness, good audience attention for all of these issues, that it's going to continue. And as I said, even Joe Biden had some good words about how this is the beginning of something that's going to continue until we root out white supremacy from the police, but also from the education system, from the healthcare system, from the banking system, from the housing system, from every aspect of American life. Because racism and prejudice, and not just racism, but other forms of prejudice too, have infiltrated all of these systems, and we can root it all out at once and craft a much better system, the system that lives up to our ideals. And that's the future thinking that we need, and plenty of us have. There's so many of us have had this future thinking for a long time, carried it, passed the torch, inspired other people. But this future thinking that we're entering now becomes more possible when people see that justice that they couldn't think would ever be done has been done in this case and started to be done. So the dominoes are falling, as I predicted. If you see my PuffinOn videos from earlier today, just predicting that we will get a guilty verdict. We're not predicting as much as letting you know from the future, assuring you that there is a future where we don't have police brutality or oppression at all. We actually have a future of equality between people, and it's so much happier and healthier and better for everyone. And it's coming sooner than we can even imagine. Just as this was, as long as we've waited and people have suffered waiting for this type of turn to happen, it's still sooner than people who have imagined. And so once things start turning, once they start turning for the good, it accelerates really quickly. And we're going to get victories in more places. So I did want to wear my Antifa victory party hat for celebrating the victory, and I did want to pay respect to the people who have passed on. Edward Wright, rest in peace, rise in power, and all the people. They're symbols for all the other people who have been victims of police brutality and unjust wars and other things that are part of a fascist oppressive system that we've gotten to almost the zenith of the fascism here in America under Trump. But because they pushed so hard and didn't win, and we won instead, and we're going to continue to win, we can defeat fascism entirely, both in America and all over the world. I appreciate there was the support from protesters and supporters all over the world for this issue, and we'll be supporting you in your protests and concerns to eradicate fascism all over the world, because it's been perpetuated mostly by Putin and Facebook electing leaders like Trump, Bolsonaro, and Modi, who also have been spreading the virus. So it's a genocide thing too, as well as fascism. But we will overthrow those systems that those people have taken advantage of to be able to rise to the top of. And that's going to make a much better